Marie, we are live at 3rd and Lewis. If you're familiar with the downtown area, you know that we're about a block or so away from CCDC, the Clark County Detention Center, or the local jail as it is also known. This is night 5 of protests and demonstrations in the Las Vegas area. By my estimation, this is the largest crowd that we have seen yet. Several thousand people taking part tonight, and I'll show you what's going on here. This area has a very large police presence, and that's because police are discouraging and have discouraged the demonstrators from going anywhere near the jail. In fact, at one point, they actually surrounded this entire block. SWAT was out here. They had some armored vehicles here. And now, as the crowd is moving on, police are moving on as well. Now, you mentioned this started back at the Fashion Show Mall. The initial intention by some we're told was to march in front of Trump International Hotel. That turned out to not be an option because the road is primarily private property there. Police redirected the crowd back out onto the Las Vegas Strip. A very large police presence, as I mentioned, but mainly directing traffic away from the crowd. Now, there has been a police helicopter flying high above, kind of keeping an eye on things. I should mention that this all appears very organized today, certainly peaceful, unlike what we've witnessed in other cities. Peaceful, but that does not mean that people are not angry. Here's what a couple of the demonstrators told me just a short time ago.
It's going to take for way more than just walking in the streets and just protesting. This is a 400-year problem. This is a slave problem. This is an America problem, you know. Once people wake up, they just got to wake up.
We wouldn't be out here if a white man got killed. We wouldn't be out here like this if a white man. We tired. We're tired. I'm over it. I'm so sick of it. It's terrible.
A lot of them protesters began lining up at Trump International Hotel, quickly got on the move as police and SWAT started to disperse the crowd there. Newsroom's Tiffany Lane continues our team coverage from Trump International, where officers continue to block off streets there.
Well, that's right. And as Gerard mentioned, the key word tonight is this has all been very peaceful. It all started here, as you mentioned, behind me. I want you to show this area. This is Sammy Davis Jr. and Desert Inn. Now, this is the area blocked off right in front of the entryway to get to the Trump International Hotel. Right now, you can see several law enforcement vehicles and officers standing in a line there. And you do see some protesters there expressing their frustrations because, as he mentioned, you know, while this has all been peaceful, it doesn't mean that people are not angry. But the night started peacefully as protesters gathered. A heavy presence of patrol and SWAT vehicles lined up in this area. Protesters peacefully moved after law enforcement directed them away from the Trump International Hotel because it is private property. Now, this event just hours after President Trump threatened military force to stop violence and looting. That's why some people told me it was important to start their protest here today. I asked a few people what their reaction was to his comments, and the protesters told me they believe it makes it seem like all protesters are out looting, which they say has not been the case. Now, another thing we saw today, and I wanted to mention that along that route where we saw the protesters, there were several of them who actually brought water and free masks to give out to the other protesters along the way. So again, very peaceful in comparison to what you're seeing in several different parts of the country. But we're going to continue to stay out here and provide you updates. Back to you.
Started as peaceful protests last night on the streets of Las Vegas, but they ended with gunfire. One Metro officer in the hospital in extremely critical condition. We go live to Faith Jesse from Metro headquarters with the latest. Faith?
Hey, good morning, Dana. Emotions running high in this city. A very hard weekend leading into a very hard night for a lot of folks. We're actually outside across the street from Metro headquarters. Usually when you see us reporting here, we're right in front of the building, but because of increased security, they've asked us to be across the street. And around 3:30 this morning, Sheriff Joe Lombardo gave us an update as to what exactly happened. And like you said, Dana, one of these officers in extreme critical condition over at UMC. But let's break down what happened. This protest yesterday actually started off as a very peaceful one and went on for hours as a peaceful protest. In fact, a lot of people going to bed with the headlines reading, finally a night of peace. But unfortunately, things turned for the worst. According to Sheriff Lombardo over at Circus, there was a large crowd of protesters, and he says that police were alerted to break it up. And once that happened, that's when things emotions heightened, tensions heightened, and shots were fired. One of those shots hitting a Metro officer. That Metro officer currently in critical critical condition at UMC. Another scene over at the Foley Federal Building. According to Sheriff Lombardo, there was a group of protesters meeting with officers that were at the steps guarding the building. They say that there was one man who had multiple firearms. He had an open carry citizen. And police say that they saw the man reaching for a firearm. That is when they fired shots, and they actually killed that man there. The police in that situation recovering as well. So that's what we're hearing. Take a listen to some inside of the press conference, some sound from Sheriff Lombardo.
This is a sad night for LVMPD family and a tragic night for our community. With these protests, which are leading to riots, one tragedy is only leading to another. What has occurred is utterly unacceptable. I hope the community sees it that way too.
Blood donations across the Las Vegas Valley have fallen victim to the COVID-19 pandemic. Brittany McLemore with blood collector Vitalent says they had to cancel over 200 blood drives with a loss of 5,400 blood donations.
We also had elective surgeries that were rescheduled in the last couple of weeks. That had increased the need for blood for over 25%.
The blood supply falling short of the needed 4-day supply.
So we highly encourage anyone with any blood type, but specifically a negative blood types, to come out and donate.
A new incentive, antibody testing with a blood donation. McLemore says the test is FDA approved and will be free of charge, with hopes that blood donors come back to donate convalescent plasma.
And with those results, if you do have positive antibodies, you can also donate to help others who are in need, those COVID patients that are currently in our hospitals who are critically ill.
Many believe the antibody test can determine if someone has contracted COVID-19 regardless of showing symptoms. Eligible donors can see the results after about 2 weeks. And while the CDC has expressed concerns about the accuracy of antibody testing, experts say they're worth it.
Just to help as another tool in our toolbox to really establish the infection rate within a population and within the community.
Dr. Christina Madison of Roseman University is joining with the CDC, urging caution when receiving results of antibody testing. In Las Vegas, Alexis Gorey, News 3.